Yes, good afternoon. My name is Lynn. The topic on this video today is going to be called The Art of the Superseller. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a superseller, but over the course of the next 8 to 10 minutes, I'm going to explain to you about the service that I've sent to you in this communication because you were handpicked. It's either because we have met in the past, or I see that you have a specific need that if you will listen to this video until the end, find out that realistically could be of great benefit to you. And the reward at the end of it is if you decide to move forward with furthering the conversation where you can talk to me. You will receive the reward and the incentive will most definitely be there. But that being said, the superseller. Now, folks, you have heard over the years about big corporations of this, of the superseller. But the thing is, not really a superseller. What it is it's a super product, or a super service, or a super conceptualization of something that makes it super. Now, over the years being in sales and marketing as many years as I have, I've always paid attention to sales and marketing from the psychologies, the do's and the don'ts, because it is how you make a living. Now, folks, I wish you to realize that I mainly took an approach towards marketing and sales from an academic point of view. Left to my own devices, I tend to be kind of a readaholic, studyaholic, thinkaholic. Am I a bookworm or a geek? Well, no, but at the same time, I have an excessive fascination in my specialty called sales and that. But sales, everybody is in sales, regardless of what you do in life. You're pitching a deal in terms of your viability to do something or to get along. We'll leave it at that. Everybody's in sales. Some people fine tune and go into business, but here's the reason for my communicating with you today, folks. We're all in sales. We're all in business in some capacity. And what I'm sending you today is to offer my services for an AI optimizing service agency. Focused around this, you're going to see a few attachments over time. I will possibly resend something to you at some other time. For the time being, this will be my only communication. You will notice that as far as what I mentioned here will be in the comments section or the description section of this video that I've prepared that you are seeing here on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Okay? So, what is the super salesman, or what is the super product? Could be a lot of things, but the thing about it is, folks, and I was lucky and fortunate at a very early age to have been a real estate agent. Back in the days, there was the training, there was the code of ethics, the whole thing that, and it was back at a time where it was far more of a person-to-person as opposed to being replaced by the virtual world. But at that time, I learned the art of the consultative sale. A matter of being there to ask the proper questions, to get not the proper answers, but to get the answers that qualifies how to properly help a person, or to choose that what you have as far as product service doesn't quite fit the bill, but we can perhaps recommend something or somebody that does. Okay? So I am going to be offering my services as an artificial intelligent service agency to optimize sales and your business volumes. Now, how I'm going to do this, you're going to see a couple of other links in this communication. The other two links are going to be somewhat the backbone of this operation. I am a marketplace choreographer. I don't pretend to come up with the best of everything or be the best. But in my years of studying, and I see things out in the marketplace that depending on your need, say, I'm not the Shark's Tank. I don't provide a lot of money or investment, but I can place you I can place you in touch with people that can lend you money, that can provide the proper professional services. But you might consider me the choreographer, or how to put all these things together, or the traffic director. So if you're coming to me and saying, geez, I've got this, I got this product, or I got this business, or I've got this format, or I want to do a test run, or whatever, can you perhaps make some recommendations? And off of that, what I will do is make some recommendations, but I won't be just pulling them out of thin air. I will be making it in reference to many years of studying the optimums of the sales psychology, the best processes, the most successful improvements for certain applications. One business is not the same as the next. One product is not the same as the next. One business model is definitely not the same as the next as far as the margins, the pricing, the format. All these things that go into what makes for the superseller or the super salesman. Now, I will say this, that you have a look at these videos down below, and I'm going to speak primarily in terms of draw some observation on this one called Sparky AI. I became aware of it from a friend of mine that I've been in sales and marketing with, is kind of a just one of us guys that's in the business. We stay in touch. We kind of confab and plan and strategize and learn off from each other. I have in the background, I have several sales representatives and marketing representatives that I can call on. But as far as my own personal experience, most recently I spent about 3 years with the top website marketing agent in Canada. Not in terms of size or impetus of his operation, but in terms of his credentials. He is likely the most regularly sought after website marketing agency representative as far as a quote or an opinion from a recognized, respected publication or a television station or an interview on the pulse of the industry. My experience with him was I phoned him up and explained, I said, would he be interested in somebody to go out and generate leads? And this would be back in the formative time when the telephone and everything was still part of the format in a far stronger capability than it is now, in some regards. But within 3 weeks, he phoned me up and he said, Lynn, what you doing? I said, generating leads. He says, yes, well, I'll tell you, whatever it is you're doing, don't stop. But he says, for gosh sakes, talk to my other guys that have been with me for 2 or 3 years. You're turning numbers 3 and 4 times that they are. Okay. Why? Because I plugged in and I used, and as I'm going to stress this, I used techniques. I don't use tricks. Nobody should use tricks. Nobody should think in terms of tricks, because all of a sudden, on a psychic level, that registers with people. Only techniques to allow people to properly answer, to properly be able to qualify what they need, if they need from you, and if they need from you, to qualify why they need it, how, and what's going to motivate them to buy it. And if it's not, at the same time, in all honesty, if you know somebody else, by all means recommend them. It's always in the turnaround. As well as that, there's a criteria as far as closing and the format and the sequence of a presentation. In order to basically, if there's going to be a purchase made, you methodically go through the basic interpretive psychologies that anybody can understand, which I can teach. And as I say, if you decide to do business with our group, we can provide you properly scripted formats, some sales incentives, a whole bunch of things, because in my background, I've worked with numerous high-caliber professional blue-chip operations. I also had the good fortune of working hands-on several times a week with the top network marketing executive in the world, on the books. He retired. He's an elderly man now. However, I suspect he is still alive and well. And he moved along, but in those years, I learned I learned how to properly format and do all these things that he did so very well, and had just under 400,000 people in his organization when he retired. Now, why am I not rich and famous or retired and all these things? Because, as I say, I did it in terms of an academic point of view. I learned the qualifications of how to make it scientifically, substantially, economically, environmentally, whatever the criteria, publicly acceptable, and as well as that, totally legal and not fattening, okay? Well, actually, some of the things were fattening, but I never decided to write a recipe book. But I can recommend a few good ones. However, which I will do if you wish to get in touch with me. But as far as where I was going with this, is that when you I lost my train of thought here for a second. It didn't go off the tracks, but folks, I'm not going to go and pretend to be slick, and I can be all slick and formal and properly scripted and presented, but basically authenticity is always better than going for the perfect pitch or the trick or the slick. Okay, so we'll get back to whatever it was I was talking about. But yes, folks, I have with these different executives over the years, I have learned how to basically go out and yes, my train of thought is back on track. I did it primarily as an academic. In my past years, I have had successful university experiments as far as increase in feed gain conversion ratios in feeder hogs. Best in the world as far as air ionization. I have a couple of certificates of engineering proficiency, not engineering degrees, but engineering technical certificates in a couple of different disciplines, basically hydraulics and hydrostatics. I worked for the largest trucking and industrial corporation in the world, where I got that from their technical institute in Duncan, Oklahoma, Halliburton Industries. And as well as that, I have one in ionization. Ionization, the basic building block of the universe, from Dr. Charles Wallach, realistically deceased by now. God rest his soul, but he was the former head of the United Nations Environmental Council when I met him. He had a PhD in physics, biophysics, and education. And he was the top expert in air ionization and other things in the world. He'd built a couple of universities in his life. I had a certificate of technical or professional proficiency that he basically said that I knew a great deal about fresh air or whatever, but because fresh air has to do with negative ionization on the basic thing. It's a fit. But we won't go off into a dissertation in that regard. But an ion is the basic building block of the universe. And from there, so I have, but what have I done to show for it? Well, I've sold successfully over the years. I picked up a brochure and gone out and sold for a period of time just to raise some money so I could take some time off and do some traveling. I had to go and to do some learning and some studying. And often I would basically take brochures in an industry that I was interested in so I could go out and deal with the public, deal with the criteria, and do the learning process and learn while I went. So it was always one thing to the next, because I did not stick for a 20-year run with one company and get my gold watch, is what I did not do. But I would be into it for a few months or a year, and okay, well, I'm fascinated. I've learned that. It's on to the next semester, on to the next class, on to the next. I treated the world in terms of my employment somewhat academically. As far as economics, investments, world politics, criteria, all those things, tend to have a good handle on that as well. But what I finally pitched, folks, in terms of in the turnaround, I'm still a working stiff. I'm out trying to make a living like everybody else. But I helped architect and oversee something that essentially was given some level of real note and accolades and approval by some of the highest lending big deep pockets in the world. Yes, and basically closely associated with large banking interests and the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, a bunch of other things. But what it was a several hundred trillion dollar overall choreography of a realistic environmental and economic manner by which one could literally reset the CO2, the temperature, and a whole bunch of things. And it's in the works. It's being heard of right now. But what it did also is it was such a derailment for the other people that figured, well, we're going to do this, and they were off on a tangent. But again, my years of education and my expertise, and yes, my ability, because well, how I trained myself and learned and researched, I try to be wise with what limited information and knowledge I have, to treat it wisely, logically, ethically, soundly, value for the money. And so I prefer to be wise as opposed to being smart. You know, a lot of people are very, very smart, and they catch this and they catch that, but they're not very wise with how they use it. So I did what I did for my life. For the most part, I did it wisely because I'm still here. I'm not standing right now, but I'm still standing. I'm 69. I feel reasonably healthy, and but still, nonetheless, still a working stiff. Not because I'm too old to you know, to be gainfully employed and I'm out of date. No, it's not the case that even if I might be possibly still in the future, weird how things turn out, possibly one of the richest people in the world in terms of the formats of the this overview that I put on. In terms of things, I'd rather just say that I applied it properly. I did what I wanted. I got my research in that. I pitched this deal, and if you consider that the initial outlay and stuff of that would basically generate, as far as the spin-offs of some things that I have as far as a patent on some conceptuals, a copyright, and some industry concepts and things of several $100 trillion over the next 35 years. And my associations with some international banking concerns and contacts, well, you consider on banking and initiating and business plans and overall formats that have gone over very well. One that we're working on, numerous billions of hundreds of billions as far as potential already. If you're running in the proper position on that, you know, in a lot of cases like these, when a project, whoever initiates and sets it up, and there's maybe a 0.5% to 2% commission on something. Well, folks, even if you consider that I got 0.1% on $1 trillion, well, that's still basically makes for $10 billion, or no, $1 billion, no, $10 billion. So several hundred trillion. Well, that's quite a few trillion dollars. But as they say, you just keep going hard until you're gone. Like my grandfather, my father, it's a case that you keep working, you keep active, you keep busy. So in the meantime, folks, I'm out there in the marketplace, trying and somewhat committed to the idea of taking an approach of helping other people get into things and pursuing what they want to do it effectively, ethically, and in a format that's pretty much guaranteed that if it's going to work, it can work this way. So I and our group, we're going to offer this to you, that if you decide to go through this, and my phone number, 306-485-9976, the information will be below, or by email. You can get back to me, and we can provide to you a service, because if your interest is, look, I just want to run my business, I want to go out and do what I'm doing, but I need somebody to plug in on this AI stuff, smart move. Not necessarily that I would be the smart move, but if you have a talk with me and we do business in whatever format, I will direct you in a direction that you will find beneficial, and you will find that it's not a waste of time to reach out and consider doing some business. So that being said, I'm just about ready to wrap up. My apologies. We're going over 20 minutes, but here's your reward, folks. If you get back to me in terms of looking at the sign up on this AI service, that when we plug it into your business to get your business fine-tuned and optimized, working with this AI, that initially after you plug in the leads or you send it in the right direction, it does the presentation, it does the format, it follows up, has very polite conversations with you, and it is a very nice piece of technology. I'm most impressed, and the other thing about it is the big boys out there in terms of influence and whether it's acceptable as far as the technology, the big boys in social media have given their approval to it, and they've kind of opened up some doors that it can kind of go out and do some things that, for the most part, a lot of them aren't allowed to do because it didn't hit the mark as far as being to a certain standard of acceptability and ethics. So now we're up past 21 minutes. I apologize, but here's your reward, folks. And it's based on Og Mandino, the world's most successful, or the world's greatest salesman. I will show you the proper formats and sequences and fine-tune them and specialize them for your sales approach, no matter what you're doing. You're on some basic formulas of steps that have been known for several hundred years, although there's some big gurus like, the first guy's name is Grant. And granted, the guy is a very successful guy, but all of a sudden he's raving because he's got this 7-step. Excuse me, but it's been around for several hundred years, but it's new and improved, or it's got a different name, and good on him because he provides value for his money. So I don't begrudge a guy for putting a clever pitch on something that really, folks, has been known for several hundred years as far as the consultative, ethical, professional sales presentation. But I can give you the 7 steps or whatever. The interpretive psychology, so that you can be in control of the sales presentation right from start to finish, and it'll leave you thinking. It won't leave you querying and trying to memorize. Oh, I got to do this. It'll show you how does common sense think yourself through a sales presentation or a business format or comprehensive assessment. I have done it from the small to the big scale. And on a very large scale, several hundred, well, in excess of $400 trillion. The numbers, everything all matched, and everybody says. However, for the time being, in the background, the world's in a bit of a state of shock because some guys that were figuring they were going to run off with some big momentum with, 15 or 30 trillion a year, and all of a sudden, it's just, and as well as that, the science was, we won't get into it, basically. Did I build a better mousetrap? Yes, and it's not a booby trap, folks. This thing, well, that's why it's out there in the world, and right now there's so many people in a state of shock because it's derailed, or they're rethinking, and they don't know quite what to think of it. And some of the guys that were off on momentum and really on a roll are somewhat resentful of me coming up with it, but at the same time, the majority of the world thinks it's pretty darned acceptable. That, thank goodness, maybe that somebody has, but in the meantime, I'm just moving along. So if you want to get into artificial intelligence and that, you've chose the right guy. Artificially, no. I realistically learned doing it the proper way. I've been researching it, keeping my eye on it for the last several years, and I've seen now that it's taken a course of direction, and it's getting some momentum, and there's actually something where I can ethically go out and say, if you do this and stick to it, it's going to have some staying and lasting and longevity to it. It's not like a lot of things where if you get into it, like, for example, some formats of search engine optimization, you pay the guy once, and then all of a sudden the formats are something totally changed, and then you're regrouping what you were paying for or had hoped for and were relying on for your cash flow. It's all gone upside down, and then there's panic. No, people like stability, security, longevity, something you can build a foundation and build steadily and sturdily on ongoing without having to worry about it all coming tumbling down. And for that reason, over my life and my longevity, up until 3-4 years ago, nothing came tumbling down in some regards, and nothing's come tumbling down. But I'll tell you, some aspects of the world, much to my surprise, came down on me very, very hard for the fact that, and it was a small few, because all of a sudden, they didn't like the fact that there was some group of people out there, the multi-trillionaires, not the little give or take 1 or 2 trillion or some little billionaire kind of thing. No, the multi-trillionaires of this world, and they do exist. It's just that everybody seems to figure that some of these billionaires are supposedly the richest people in the world. And no, they're fibbers. They are fibbers at worst or best or whatever, but at any rate, folks, you have a good day. My name is Lynn. I do respect you for taking the time to listen. And as mentioned on the Ogmandino World's Greatest Salesman, as far as the close that I use and show you the proper interpretive format to properly close a deal, so if there's anything on the table, it's going to go home with you. You never have to second guess how you could have said something differently in a deal or a negotiation that maybe it would have changed things around. Because the thinking, the format, the knowledge is all there, so that you know that if the guy says yes, it's because it was properly set up. If the guy says no, it's because it was properly set up, so that he made the sensible decision, and it's less headache than for you now, as opposed to and I have an unhappy customer later. So that being said, folks, I will say that the reward will be based on the Ogmandino, because that was the mystery of the book. They say read the book. The secret of the sale or the success of the business is in the book in terms of how he does things. I picked up on it somewhat immediately, but over the course of the years, and I have got a close now that I do pat myself on the back that I came up with it somewhat all by myself. I made it up as I went along, but nonetheless it works. So, but I call my sales close Old Faithful, and essentially that is the truth of it. So if nothing else, if we do decide to do business, I will show you the sales close, the format, and that if we decide to do business. And I explain exactly what's going on as far as the Old Faithful close, the full hair. And as I say, if you have a sales team or you have anybody out there that would wish for me to have a Zoom call with you, do a seminar on that, and I can bring along some experts in the background that I have over the year, because many heads are better than one. Even the head that is not as educated or schooled or experienced, because everything that everybody says is relevant in terms of whether it is relevant that it's said or it is accurate, but it's always relevant in terms of you can always judge relevantly off of what's being said, how to act, react, or decide to say something to encourage the sale, or decide that that's enough. And for now, folks, that's enough. And you have a good day. I apologize. We did go to 28 minutes, but they say if you keep it under 30 minutes, it may not be a bad thing at all. So with that, I hope it's a good thing, and you folks have a great day. And in the meantime, my very best regards, and have a prosperous one. Bye-bye.